Hey there, Dental Venturers, and welcome to section 2 of this limited series podcast. So, like I said before, this is like an audiobook, and so it's going to have its different sections, its different chapters. And section 2, we're really getting into internal branding. You know, your leadership, how your leadership truly drives your culture, and how that culture becomes your brand that drives your patients to refer you. Because if you really want to take an entire year off, 2 years off of your growth curve on your startup, you have to start here. And I'm going to go ahead and push again that we've got the workbook that you should be following along with. Hopefully you've started at the beginning. If not, please go back and listen to the first 7 episodes of this podcast limited series. And then here, as we get through section 2, this is where a lot of people are kind of starting to think, okay, I need to get some questions answered. And I do coaching calls that are complimentary, that are not sales oriented, because I do this limited series to attract people to me so that I don't have to go out and sell. So I'd love for you at this point, schedule with me, get on my calendar. There's a link in the show notes. You can go to venturepractices.com. There's links there to get to me. And, we'll set up just a very casual 15 to 30 minute call where you can, no matter where you are in the process, get some answers for some of these questions maybe I'm not getting to or haven't gotten to yet. So thinking about in this particular episode, we're going to just really talk about your leadership style and solidifying that vision. I don't want you to not listen to this because you think you've got great leadership skills, because again, I have been trained and have been certified in leadership, and I continue every day to learn about leadership. And not only learn in the way of I pick up a book or I watch some videos or that type of thing. No, just the practical side of working with my team, working with your teams, and working out in the business community. I continue to lead and grow. Leadership is a growth strategy for your practice. So you have to be good at this first, or nothing else will work. So first, how do you kind of start getting into laying out that vision? So I'm going to give you some suggestions here. I'm also going to give you a book that I use. The first is kind of set up that 5-year goal. Then you're going to move it back to a 1-year goal, and then sort of that 90-day vision. And the reason we lay it out like that is, if the world is perfect and all of this goes great for you in 5 years, that's that kind of bigger goal that you're probably thinking of now, right? Like, I'm not going to be working as much, or I'll have a thriving practice and I'll be doing the cases that I want and, really making great money. That's what's going to happen. Again, another one of those things I've never not seen happen. Most of my clients I have 4 or 5 years, so I know what that looks like. So you're going to have great success. So your 5-year plan, not as crucial. 1-year plan for that first year, very crucial. So what you're going to want to do for your 1-year plan is sit down and think to yourself, okay, I need to think all the way through what this looks like 1 year from now, so that I can break up 4 quarters, 4 90-day vision sessions to reach a bigger goal. So once you know those 1-year goals, okay, and that could be, things like, I want to see 50 new patients a month, and I want, a 90% recall, and I want to get to those things. They could be as simple as, I want to make sure all of my processes and systems are solidified by the end of year 1. I want to make sure that my team is at this size with these types of people. I want to make sure my patients are recalling, but I have these types of patients. I have a lot of my ideal patients, and I'm growing and getting the patients that I want. We just helped a startup that he was very, very intentional. And, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, he's only getting 20 new patients a month, first couple months. But he was thrilled. Most of the time people are like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here, which 20 is good. Let me be honest with you. 20 is good. But he got 20 patients each month of the exact patient he wanted. He did not have one patient that he was like, I even remotely would not want to work with. And they all had work. They were all big spenders. Like, he really got what he wanted out of that. So you got to think about what you're looking at, so that you're not like, oh, geez, I need to get to 50 new patients as quick as I can. Be intentional here. And that's what that 90-day vision is for. So this is where all of your advisors that I talked about in the last episode should be helping you out. Financially, where do you want to be in 90 days? What does your marketing need to accomplish in the next 90 days? What type of team development needs to occur in the next 90 days? What do we need to learn about the workflows of this practice in the next 90 days? So understand that, right? And then, of course, your milestones, I'm big on that too. Generally, an accountant is a good person to talk to there, financial advisors of, hey, when can I buy, the CEREC machine? When can I buy, So think about those things as well. The book I was going to mention is called The 12-Week Year. And it's really good because it gets you focused over that 90 days. And so I always say have that 90-day kind of project list. And then weekly say, here are the 3 big tasks. These are to-dos, 3 big to-dos to get to that 90-day, project goal. And, again, if you're having trouble with this, because this does give a lot of people trouble, go to the workbook. We've got some good tips in there, but also schedule a call with me and I can walk you through this process as well. Want to talk about getting organized. Most dentists have a pretty good organizational structure, but your life's about to get interrupted pretty drastically with a startup. So it's a whole new level of organization. There's a great book out there. Here's another one for you, Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. That one just kind of talks about protecting your schedule, but also protecting your personal schedule too. But just, for dentists, the concept I love, and it has 2 really. The first is on stage and off stage work. Your on stage work is obviously when you walk in that office and start working with patients. You are on stage. Off stage work is all the preparation you're doing so that you're successful on stage, right? Just like actors have to practice, right? And do performance and, get reviewed by people, that's important. So if you're able to schedule that off stage work, and this is, why a lot of dentists take Fridays off, right? Stick to that. Make sure you're really keeping organized, that you're not just, oh, this task came up, I'm going to go do it. Protect your schedule. Be good at that. The other thing that comes out of Free to Focus that I really like with teams is task filters. In the beginning, this may not be as big a deal because you're kind of setting what those tasks are. But over time, you can really optimize a team by having them list out all the tasks they do throughout the week and maybe even the month. Because it was very interesting. We did this with a guy had bought a practice and he wanted to see what everybody was doing. Ton of crossover, unnecessary, inefficient crossover. I think the thing that made me laugh was every of the 8 people he inherited, every one of them talked about how they opened the practice each morning. Like literally actually put the key in and turn the door. I'm like, well, all 8 of you aren't doing that at once. So what, who really does that? Which means nobody was doing it, right? Or, it was always random. So that allows you to really get an idea of here are all the things that are happening in my practice, right? I tell people all the time, if you take out your mobile phone and just hit record and walk around the office, just walk around the entire office and just start talking about what happens in every single area in detail, you're going to find there's a lot of times you're like, ooh, I don't 100% know what happens here, or does this happen here? This is what I want to happen here, but is it happening here? So that's always a good exercise to do once a quarter. Is just say, are we efficient here? Is this an area we really need to improve on over the next one? So moving on from that, like I said, get organized. That's super important. Your internal brand, a lot of this is going to relate to your culture. So for me, culture is so easy to define. It's not necessarily going to be easy for you, but here's the best way to do it. The simplest way to do it is sit down and think to yourself, what do I want my practice to look like, act like, and how do I want it to feel? Not only feel for your patients, but also feel for your staff. So here's an example. Does your practice look professional, act organized, and because of those things, it feels trusted? Or, do you want it to look like a great place for kids, act really fun, and just feel comfortable to help alleviate that anxiety? There's a lot of ways to look at this. So Don't just grab one of these and take it. Really think about when your staff wakes up every morning, and part of our culture is that we're going to look professional. They're not coming in, looking like they just rolled out of bed. They look like they care to be there. Act organized. I mean, that doesn't mean that there's sticky notes all over the admin's monitor when patients are checking out. That may make them feel like, are you taking care of my records and my health and things like that. So, what does that feel like to them? It's hard for me to trust somebody that I don't feel like has everything together. So really just think about that look, act, and feel for culture. It's not easy, just like the vision's not easy. Again, one of those things I can help you with if you need it, but it's something that is so important. It's so important. This is also the easiest way, the look, act, and feel, to get your staff to adopt it. Like I said, so they wake up and they just know naturally what it is. And then here are kind of some questions you need to be thinking about as you work through this process. How do we want our office or offices to look? Right? Is it if our ideal patient, which is the other part of this, what does our ideal patient look like? You got to figure that out. But does our office look like a place that ideal patient would feel comfortable? Do the areas where the staff spends the majority of their life, not just their day, but their life, do those areas look comfortable and complete and efficient and effective for them? How will we act when we answer the phones or when we greet patients? So I I could do a whole limited series on this, and probably numerous people have. I'm a big fan of front office rocks and what they did, but everybody has to be consistent. You as the leader need to make sure everybody knows how we're answering the phones and we're greeting patients. That can't just be a hodgepodge. I see a lot of people, there's the bubbly person at the front desk, gets people excited, then it gets back there, and the hygienist didn't really get a chance to establish rapport because they weren't able to do any x-rays or anything like that. It was more the person got in the chair, they started working. They're not a type of person that likes to talk a lot, and it just comes across as cold. So that's why that how do we act, super super important. How do we expect our employees to act on social media as well as in the community? You can't dictate to them what they're doing in their personal lives, no doubt. But if they're putting your practice in jeopardy by the things they're posting, the activities they're doing, you have to have those difficult conversations of, hey, this doesn't represent our company. This is not our culture. Now, here is the actual great thing about having a good culture. They generally self-police themselves. So if somebody else sees something, they're going to be like, hey, I don't want to be represented with that. Just letting you know. But again, you can't tell them what to do, but just tell them this is not what our culture is. What do team members feel about our practice before they come to work for us? So we do a lot of work with groups that are, trying to figure out their recruiting and what they can do for that. And we're just like, hey, first things first, you got to have a brand that when people get to your website, when they get to your social media, that they are like, hey, I could see myself working there. And how are we going to improve our situation when I go work there? This is going to be a better opportunity for me. What should our patients feel about our practices, about our people? Remember, your people are your brand. That's what's going to make your patients feel something. That experience comes from your staff. And so they need to feel something for your staff. How do we want to be viewed in the community? For a lot of people, that may be a charitable way, or it's just a being present, like sponsor some events. Make sure you're contributing to schools and being present at everything you can in your community, especially as a startup. You have to be everywhere in your community as a startup. You cannot, I'm telling you, and it needs to be you. If you can do it, get out there as much as you can, go to as many events, sponsor as many events. I'm telling you, that community involvement, that grassroots marketing you do in the beginning will far exceed any pay-per-click ad, direct mail, radio, billboard, digital marketing, any of it. That grassroots marketing where you get out in the community and get yourself known, that is going to be key. But remember, our employees represent us, so they need to know what we value. So I don't want to gloss over leadership here. So all this will be important in making decisions on how you lay out your office as well, how you communicate, how you interview with staff, how you network, who you hire, and how you'll communicate with everybody involved. So really just a big communication strategy overall. So take the time to really build out that leadership brand. And again, feel free to find the link in the show notes. If you've got a quick question, you can go ahead and set up an appointment on my calendar. Look forward to talking to you in the next episode. We're going to actually talk about behavioral assessments so that we can make sure we're getting the right team put together for the right culture in our office. See you then.